They're trying to run it right into the election. And if that's their strategy, the American people really have to learn that. I mean, they're trying to do the same thing Comey did. They're trying to become judge and jury of the 2018 elections. That is a tragedy with a phony investigation like this. They simply don't have any evidence of collusion. And they have no evidence of obstruction other than their version of the truth.
That was the attorney for President Rudy Giuliani weighing in on this never-ending Mueller probe. Meanwhile, earlier today, Fox News contributor, former assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York, Andy McCarthy, put out this incredible piece. Robert Mueller shouldn't even ask Trump for an interview. He joins us now, along with the author of the bestseller, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, which I am very fond of this book, along with Judge Piro's book and Greg Jarrett's book. The three of them are all worth a great read. Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz, good to see you both. Let me begin with you, Andy McCarthy, on your piece. If the lawyer gives them 30 hours, the White House counsel, the president goes in, remember, George Papadopoulos, Lieutenant General Flynn, lying. And the FBI didn't think that Flynn was lying. Papadopoulos is basically a non-player kid in all of this. Why would the president think anything but a perjury trap awaits him?
Sean, I think that that's obviously what the problem is for him here. We have a history of this investigation where, you know, one person remembers something one way, somebody else remembers it a different way. Same thing happened with General Flynn. You know, first they decide he's telling the truth, then they decide that he's not. 30 hours of conversation about what the president was saying and what he was thinking in connection with the very actions that Mueller is looking into. If the president were to go in and submit to an interview, if he remembers anything differently from the way that his attorney remembers it, the White House counsel, then they have a conflict. And as I've tried to point out, those who say that an innocent person doesn't have anything to worry about or an honest person doesn't have anything to worry about speaking to a prosecutor are nuts, because it's the prosecutor, not the honest person, who decides whether you're being honest or not.
And Andy, let's be clear.
Sure.
When Rudy said this weekend, and I would argue it's inarticulate, you know, the truth is not the truth. What he was clearly saying was, I would argue, legal jargon. As a former prosecutor, he knows well that you're going to have, say, Don McGahn has one story. The president says one thing that's different. The person that will decide what is the truth will be the special counsel that we all know is predisposed against Donald Trump. So that is clear as day what he meant. Inarticulate, but he's right.
Yeah, that's the point he's trying to make. It's the prosecutor who's the arbiter of the truth, and that doesn't mean the prosecutor is right. It just means that's the way the system is set up.
Yeah. And Professor Dershowitz, I got to get you to weigh in here. This is really, why would the White House counsel ever give them 30 hours?
Well, I think originally the original plan of the Trump defense team was to cooperate in the hope that the investigation would quickly end. That hope has been dashed. But going back to Rudy Giuliani for a second, I have an article on Gatestone today in which I say, when the truth isn't the truth, making exactly the same point that Andy made, a point that I've been making now for 3 months, that in order to fall into a perjury trap, all you need is one witness who contradicts one statement that the person says to the prosecutor. That witness can be somebody who is singing, composing, who has flipped, who has a deal, who's been told either you're going to die in prison or you're going to tell us what we want to hear. And any defense lawyer who would ever walk a client into a perjury trap under those circumstances has to have his license reconsidered.
Let me ask you a question I was asking Greg earlier, Professor, and that is this. Would Paul Manafort be being prosecuted now but for all this on had nothing to do with Russia, no collusion, nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with the campaign? Then the same goes for General Flynn. Then the same goes for Papadopoulos. And the same really goes for Michael Cohen. Isn't that true, that this is selective prosecution, or what you call the criminalization of political differences?
Well, you don't have to ask me that question. Ask Judge Ellis, who's presiding over the Manafort case. He has stated publicly that the special counsel is not interested in Manafort's alleged crimes. They're only interested in squeezing him in order to get him to flip and to either sing or compose. Those are words used by Judge Ellis against the president. The same thing is true with Cohen. Medallions, what does medallions have to do with the scope of the special investigation? Now, they're investigating him in the Southern District of New York, but they're clearly cooperating with the special counsel. The goal of all of this, right, the goal of all of this is to squeeze these people.
Rudy's worked there. All right, Andy, we'll give you the last word. I'm really beginning to have more problems than I ever thought with our criminal justice system. A guy that's facing 100 years, key witness in the Manafort case. Really? Sounds like a form of bribery to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, look, Sean, I think part of the reason the jury may be having trouble with the case is the way it was teed up for them. Mueller makes a deal with Gates, who basically gets a walk for the same conduct this guy, Manafort, may spend the rest of his life in jail on.
You guys have both been
amazing. I'm glad conservatives are finally seeing the light about this, that conservatives are finally being critical of the justice system.
In some ways, you were right, I was wrong.